You really burst onto the scene. And, we talked before we started today. I've been around this a long time. And your name is everywhere. And what do you think you've tapped into? What do you think you've brought to the table that has produced this kind of spontaneous combustion? Because you're everywhere right now. I never know quite where the real estate community's plugged in. We let people know, hey, we got Ed Mylett, and people are like, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable.
That's wonderful.
Why do you think your authenticity showed up and it seems to be meeting the market right now?
Wow. That's a hard one to answer. I'm probably one of the people that got into personal development not to frame themselves as like a guru. My stuff is more like, let me save you some time on mistakes I've made. So I think perhaps people see with me that, one, I'm a confident person, but I don't need to show you my Lambo to prove it. I think there's a little bit of that fatigue on that stuff. And I'm more like lessons learned from a life of a guy who's made some mistakes and had some success. So I'm not a guru. And then I will just say that if I were to brag, it would be that God gave me 2 or 3 talents that I've refined into really good skills. And one of them is my ability to communicate. And so I have tapped into in my own life something I, A, enjoy doing, B, I have a proclivity for. I think I've also just been very real with my setbacks, real with when I'm having a bad day. I think it's just been sort of maybe like an interesting journey to follow for somebody. I'd like to think that, people want someone with some confidence, but also some humility. Like that's what I see in you. My favorite people have a lot of self-confidence, but there's a sense of humility. Like what you just described with magic. You're not going to meet magic and think this dude lacks self-confidence. But it takes a lot of humility to sit in the green room and watch the other speakers and believe you can learn from them. Right. Yeah. And I like people that nuance. I don't want to have a lot of friends around me who don't have any confidence because you got to carry them through life. Right. But then
I always say it's like tying the dog to the bumper for a walk.
Isn't that true? And then so the lack of but then the other side of it is super confident people with no humility. They're nauseating and they eventually make a mistake and they burn out. So I want both with the people in my life.
I've told this story before, a great story, which is I'm serving on this board. The guy at the end of the board is a multi-billionaire guy that you would know many of his brands that he found. And we're on this board. And there's a guy, and it's his third meeting, and we're going around the room, and the guy finally raised his hand. He said, listen, I apologize. I'm an imposter. I shouldn't be here. He goes, right now, you guys are asking me for input. I'm in the middle of a business that's failing. Oh. And he says, I just have nothing to offer. And he says, I just be honest with you, I'm going to resign from the board. I got a knot in my stomach every time I'm coming to this meeting. And the gentleman at the end of the board, who was the chairman, he's in his 80s, doesn't say a ton, but he starts laughing. And it got kind of awkward, like, because all of a sudden, this guy who's kind of opened his soul up a little bit feels like this guy's laughing. And he goes, Jimmy. He goes, do you want to hear our stories or the whole story? He goes, we've all screwed up. He goes, everyone around this table has a multiple choice of their biggest failures. And so we actually changed the board meeting. And for now, everybody had to volunteer one of their biggest clangers in business. Wow. And we went around. It was the greatest board meeting I've ever had in my life.
I love it.
Hugely successful people, great insights. And all of a sudden, this guy was restored.
Wow.
He was restored because, and again, we're living in a world now where there's a lot of phoniness. There's a lot of the influencer story. And it's like, hey, I never had a bad day, never had a bad meal, never had a bad this. And yet at the same time, people are screaming for this authenticity.
Agreed.
And that's what I think. I see you. I think you're a very gifted communicator. You've got a great energy about you. I think God's got a call on your life, which is another important thing.
That's very kind of you. And what a great story.